places on the arterials where there may already be a bus line, but that bus line's only operating every hour because the density of population along it is so low. So you put more people within walking distance of that stop, and all of a sudden you start facilitating the ability to increase the frequency. And when frequencies get to 5–10 minutes, like you probably have on campus here, people can live by transit. They can't right now. So to sort of jump back, so urban, suburban, very critical. There was a study done as part of the Sacramento blueprint process, the regional blueprint process, about 5 years ago, where they took about 7 or 8 arterials, like Fulton Avenue, Madison Avenue, Marconi, some of those, and then they took about 15% of those arterials and looked at how much growth it could handle at only 20 units per acre. I mean, a lot of the urban stuff we're doing is 80–90 units per acre. So at only 20 units per acre, they discovered that we could handle 20 years of growth for Sacramento County on those pieces of property only. So we don't have to do any greenfield development. We don't have to build beyond the existing fabric of the community at all to grow. And the wonderful thing, Detroit would lust for the growth resources that our region has, or that California has anywhere, so that they could fix what they've got. And so we take those, that's a powerful, I mean, in Sacramento region, there's probably $4 to $5 billion of money spent on new development in the region. If we invest that right, in 20 years we could have suburbs that are just like the central city, that sing, and they're wonderful neighborhoods to live in, wonderful places for kids to be able to move around on their own and do all of those kinds of things right. So transportation, pedestrian first, bicycle second, mass transit third. If you address the pedestrian piece, you address the transit piece as well. You can't have transit without pedestrian, critical. And thwart the car. Do everything you can to screw up the car getting around.
So you already covered a little bit about the difficulties of low-income housing, but this is another question from a student in the class, and it is community and regional designs and practice are taking sustainable approaches to the planning and redevelopment processes. How has your firm brought awareness of smart growth to low-income urban groups, and in what ways can designers and planners inform and encourage sustainability and green practices for those communities?
Well, it's even more critical for low-income families. And I want to broaden your perspective on affordable housing. We need to think about affordable communities. Okay? There's actually, I just emailed out a link to some of some folks, some of my associates that I do state-level legislative advocacy with, about a website that allows you to go to any community. It's a GIS database that allows you to go to any community and figure out what the cost of housing is there and what the cost of transportation is there as well. And transportation is just one piece of the equation. In America, California accepted, the cost of housing as a percentage of family income has stayed constant for 60 years. It hasn't changed. It's always been 25, 28% on average, all right? California, it's been higher than that. It's kind of getting back down to that level, but it's higher. It's been higher than that. Throughout America, in the early 1950s, the average family spent about 11%, 10% of their family income on transportation. Somebody guess what it is now?
40.
It's not 40, but it's basically the same as the cost of housing. So we now have an extra 15, 16% of a family's income going to transportation. Thus, we need dual income households to support all of that. The average car in America costs $8,000 a year to support. The average American family has 2 cars. The average American family makes $45,000 a year. 50. I think it's more like 50 right now. That's a huge percentage of family income. It's just monstrous. So we need to think holistically about how much it costs to live in the community. Once again, can kids move around on their own? Can a parent not have to spend half an hour commuting each way, to their job, so that they can be home to spend more time with their kids and go over to the schoolyard. By reducing commute times, you increase civic involvement. I'm going to forget the numbers, but it's something like this, that for every increase in 10 minutes of commute time, civic involvement goes down 10%. People are burnt out. You know, they're more burnt out. You don't have as much patient time for your kids when you get home at night. So there's whole business that around, you know, every aspect of a community that is directly tied to urban form. It's environmental parameters, it's social parameters, it's economic parameters. So let's get back to affordable housing. So you need to lower the cost of living for people more broadly. But as far as affordable housing, green strategies tied directly into it. We are allowed, if we can increase the energy efficiency of an affordable housing structure, we can increase the rent a little bit. So the rules for financing affordable housing allow us to do that. But in the long term, that savings in energy is going to be beneficial to them because the housing gets paid off and eventually the mortgage goes away. So being more energy efficiency lowers the cost of housing. Developing systems that are more maintenance-free lowers the cost of the housing over the long term. And I'm forgetting the thrust of your question. I'm not sure I'm getting to it completely. I've been sort of rambling on a little bit. So I'm going to stop right there, just to be safe.
Well, we've got about 10 minutes left or so, and one thing that a lot of us are concerned about here is the employment future. And so how do you see the future economics of our field?
Well, if you're a senior, it's really, really bad news. You know, if you're a freshman, you're going to be okay. So take heart. California's growing at 500,000 people a year. That's the fact. That's going to drive everything. And so the building economy will not stay in the doldrums. We will have many opportunities to build. But right now it's really bad. I mean, you know, most of the landscape firms in Sacramento are probably 25 or 30% of what they were 3 years ago. You know, our practice we had to lay people off a year or so ago as well. We're very fortunate in that we're extremely busy right now. In fact, I put everybody on overtime one day. But the industry as a whole is a mess. So I'm guessing that we'll start seeing things ease up probably at the longest time frame, maybe in about 18 months. Probably by the time we're into 36 months, we'll see things are hopefully, dear God, hopefully not going to be what they were in 2004, 2005, because we're in this trouble right now because we had such a glut of construction. Sacramento is building 20,000 dwelling units a year. It's crazy. You know, the demand is maybe at 10,000 dwelling units a year. And because of all the nonsense financing schemes that were out there, we had speculators buying houses that nobody was ever going to move into because they were going to make money on the spin and all of that sort of stuff. So hopefully they're getting it fixed this week back in Washington. All right, I know some of you may not support it, but the fact is that the Reaganomics deregulation of the finance industry is right at the heart of you guys not being able to graduate with jobs right now. Because we zoomed the economy too much as a result. We had people that were making really, really stupid finance decisions because nobody was watching, nobody was regulating. So this financial package that's going to come down is good for you. It's good for your job future as well. Especially 10 years from now when we go through another cycle. The good news about regulation is that it diminishes this. The fact is that the demand is constant. It's going to always be there. Human beings are going to procreate. We're going to have to build more stuff to deal with household formation. So, in my opinion, the best economies are the ones that do this, where we can grow, we can be comfortable, we aren't scrambling with peaks, we're not scrambling with valleys, and so anyway, it's going to be fine. It'll come back.
Well, we're just about out of time here, so okay. I'd like to thank you for doing this. This has been really, really fun.
Thank you.